This week on Vaticano, we explore the 10th U.S. National Eucharistic Congress through Pope Francis's writings and his emphasis on the Eucharist. We visit the sanctuary of the new martyrs of the 20th and 21st centuries in Rome and enjoy a special exhibition showcasing Salvador Dalì's renowned painting, Christ of St. John of the Cross. For this and more, Vaticano starts now. Pope Francis has many times emphasized that the Olympic Games are an opportunity for peace.
Lo sport ha anche una grande forza sociale.
A Sunday before the beginning of the Games, the Holy Father recalled the great social power of sport, capable of peacefully uniting people from different cultures. He also expressed his wish that the Games may provide an opportunity to establish a truce in ongoing wars.
I hope that this event may be a beacon of the inclusive world we want to build, and that athletes, with their sporting testimony, may be messengers of peace and authentic models for young people. In particular, as is the custom of this ancient tradition, may the Olympic Games be an occasion to call for a ceasefire in wars, demonstrating a sincere desire for peace.
A Mass of Peace marked the start of the UN-supported Olympic truce for the Paris Games. This initiative came from the French Bishops' Conference, the Archdiocese of Paris, and the Holy Games team. Diplomats, sports personalities, and the president of the International Olympic Committee attended. In a recent interview with EWTN News, the French ambassador to the Holy See reiterated that Olympism is first and foremost a message of peace.
Lo sport e le Olimpiadi sono veramente un momento.
Sports and the Olympics are indeed moments of great effort, performance and achievement, but everything is based on the respect for others, the respect for different nations, and the respect for each other's performances. The Games can be individual or collective, but it is about doing something together. As you know, the Olympic motto is faster, higher, stronger, but also the word together can be added to the motto, and that completely sums up the philosophy of the Olympics.
Delle Olimpiadi.
The tradition of the Olympic truce originates from ancient Greece. A truce was announced before and during the Games to ensure that the hosting city-state wouldn't be attacked and that both athletes and spectators could travel safely to and from the Games. The concept of the Olympic truce was revived in 1992 with the aim of protecting the interests of the athletes and to harness the power of sport to promote peace and dialogue. Voted by the United Nations, this year's truce began on July the 19th, 1 week before the opening ceremony of the Games, and will end 1 week after the end of the Paralympics on the 8th of September.
La tregua olimpica, che è una del...
The Olympic truce, which is one of the most beautiful expressions of the Olympic spirit, is a seed of peace planted in this world. Amidst all conflicts and divisions, it is a moment during which hands are freed from weapons to build peace. And this offers hope that the Olympic truce may inspire political and human truces, making the world a more fraternal place, as Pope Francis continually urges.
Esorta costantemente Papa Francesco.
As he does every year, Pope Francis paid a special visit to the children and staff of the Vatican's summer camp. Despite intense Roman heat during the 8:30 a.m. visit, the Holy Father visited the camp and engaged in dialogue with the children and teens, whose parents are Vatican employees. In his address to the children, Pope Francis emphasized the importance of making peace at home. In particular, he urged siblings to reconcile after fights and to never go to bed angry.
Fare la pace è la cosa più bella, più bella.
Making peace is the most beautiful thing in life, and we must learn to make peace at home. When we quarrel with our siblings or when we get angry, never go to bed without making peace.
As he does in all of his meetings with children, the Pope engaged with the little ones, asking them questions and listening to theirs. The Pope shared some childhood memories from Argentina of him and his 4 siblings, noting that parents and family make you grow. He also mentioned the joy of spending the holidays with his grandparents and encouraged the children to maintain close relationships with their elders, who will help us find our way.
Of us 4 older siblings, 2 would spend the holidays with our maternal grandparents, and 2 with our paternal grandparents. And then we would switch. So we would spend the holidays with our grandparents. It was very beautiful. I was fortunate to have my grandparents until I was 16.
Pope Francis also greeted the young summer camp staff, thanking them for their beautiful and meaningful work of accompaniment. The encounter concluded with a moment of prayer, followed by the release of natural biodegradable rubber balloons of various colors, including a white one for the Pope. On the Pope's balloon, one could read, "You are precious in the eyes of God."
Hello and welcome to this week's Vaticano Updates, the most important news from the Holy Father and the Vatican. Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal Pietro Parolin visited Ukraine to deliver Pope Francis' message of closeness. He met with President Zelensky and key religious representatives, including Orthodox and Greek Catholic leaders. Cardinal Parolin also visited war-affected areas such as Odessa. He conveyed the Pope's prayers for just resolution and comfort for all victims of the war. A Vatican investigation has cleared Cardinal Gérard Lacroix of abuse allegations. Cardinal Lacroix, who is also a member of the Council of Cardinals advising Pope Francis, was accused in a lawsuit of abusing a 17-year-old girl nearly 4 decades ago. He denied the accusations, and the alleged victim did not cooperate with the investigation. The case could be reopened if new evidence emerges. But the Cardinal will resume his duties as Archbishop of Quebec and plans to celebrate Mass on July 26th after a voluntary 6-month withdrawal. The Vatican has granted a plenary indulgence for visiting the elderly on the 4th Annual World Day of Grandparents and the Elderly on July 28th. Grandparents and elderly who participate in Mass and prayers connected to the celebration can also receive an indulgence. The usual conditions include confession and communion and must be fulfilled. Those unable to leave home can still receive an indulgence by spiritually joining the day's sacred functions. Cardinal Pietro Parolin also led the traditional Roman Madonna Fiumarola procession. This event celebrates the Madonna dei Noantri, a statue revered since its discovery by fishermen in the 16th century. The statue is carried in a boat along the Tiber River, reflecting its historical roots. In these days, altar servers from around the world are flocking to Rome. Nearly 50,000 servers, including 35,000 from Germany, will join the international pilgrimage of altar servers from July the 29th to August the 3rd. The event, themed With You, features music, prayers, and audience with Pope Francis and holy masses in Roman basilicas and churches. Thank you for watching this week's Vaticano Updates. Andreas Tonhauser for EWTN Vaticano.
In a few moments, we'll be back with the 10th National Eucharistic Congress on Vaticano.
Buongiorno a tutti. Bonjour à tous. Bom dia a todos. The presence of Jesus in the Eucharist is a gift and the fulfillment of his mission.
The National Eucharistic Congress concluded Sunday with a Mass with tens of thousands of people in an NFL football stadium, where the crowd prayed for a new Pentecost in the U.S. Church.
The Church must be faithful to the gospel, not wanting to speak to martyred men, watering down the powerful and liberating message of the gospel. We were born for these times. It is our time to go out in haste, brothers and sisters, like a lady, to a world that urgently needs to know God's love and God's truth. I'm going to tell you what is it that we need to proclaim when we go out in haste. That no darkness is greater than the light of the Eucharist. That no sin is greater than the merciful love of the Eucharist.
This was the first National Eucharistic Congress in over half a century, and a pivotal event to the U.S. Bishops' 3-year National Eucharistic Revival, leading into the final year of the revival, the year of missionary sending. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle presided over the closing Mass in Indianapolis's Lucas Oil Stadium on July the 21st as Pope Francis's special envoy for the event. He shared that the Pope told him that he desires the Congress to lead to a conversion to the Eucharist.
We have received the gift of Jesus. Let us go to proclaim Jesus zealously and joyfully for the life of the world.
Pope Francis praised the 10th National Eucharistic Revival in the United States, saying in a letter that he wished to extend a special blessing to all those attending the National Eucharistic Congress.
The Holy Father prays, as we all do, that the Congress may bear fruit, much fruit, for the renewal of the Church and of society in the United States of America.
Also in attendance at the Eucharistic Congress in Indianapolis was the Apostolic Nuncio, Cardinal Christophe Pierre, who explained to the faithful that his presence was a sign of Pope Francis's spiritual closeness.
We can be united as a church through our Holy Father. At the same time, what brings us together at this Congress, the Holy Eucharist, is also an immense gift for unity.
The nearly 60,000 Eucharistic Congress attendees were sent out with a great commissioning on Sunday morning, in which the keynote speakers urged participants to proclaim the gospel in every corner of the country.
We need a new Pentecost, brothers and sisters. And this is not my opinion. That was Paul VI, John Paul II, Benedict, everybody up to Pope Francis. We need a new Pentecost. We need to be filled with boldness. We need to be filled with intrepidity. We need to be filled with love, with generosity, to be able to sacrifice everything for the sake of the kingdom.
More than 1,600 priests, seminarians, bishops, and cardinals processed into Mass in the Indianapolis Colts Stadium in a dramatic opening procession lasting 25 minutes. An additional 1,236 religious sisters and brothers were praying in the stands, according to the event's organizers. Many people commented on the incredible energy, positivity, and hope among the Congress participants, who traveled from all 50 states to take part in the 5-day event. Father Mike Schmitz was one of the speakers.
You've been restored by Jesus' offering his body, blood, soul, and divinity. You've been redeemed by Jesus offering his body, blood, soul, and divinity. He has won for all of us access to the Father. He's given us this love, and that's the reality. Again, knowledge can make one great, but only love can make you a saint.
Nearly 60,000 tickets were sold for the National Eucharistic Congress. At the end of the closing Mass, Bishop Andrew Cousins announced to roaring applause that the U.S. bishops are planning to hold another National Eucharistic Congress in 2033, the year of redemption, marking 2,000 years since Jesus' crucifixion.
Really, it's been my experience, and I hope yours, that we've lived an experience of heaven. Of course, the Eucharist is a foretaste of heaven.
There's a special place on the map of Rome that awaits millions of pilgrims in the upcoming Holy Year 2025. The ancient Basilica of St Bartholomew on the island, constructed over 1,000 years ago by Emperor Otto III, holds a significant place in history and devotion.
La Basilica di San Bartolomeo all'Isola è un luogo speciale a Roma.
The basilica preserves the symbols of martyrdom of Christians from various eras, starting with St Bartholomew, one of the apostles, and the martyrs of the early Christian community. It also holds the relics of St Albert, a martyr crucial to the history of Europe, known for evangelizing Prussia, Poland, and Eastern Europe.
Della Prussia e della Polonia.
However, we can find here not only traces of martyrs from centuries ago.
Qui dobbiamo ringraziare Giovanni Paolo II.
We must thank John Paul II, who recognized that the Church of the 20th century was a church of martyrs. Reflecting on his own experiences in Poland during World War II and the suffering endured by many of his fellow seminarians, he was deeply aware of the nation's sacrifices. He also contemplated the horrors of communism and the suffering countless Christians in Russia and other regions of Europe subjugated by the Soviet Union.
Sottomesse dall'impero sovietico.
It was thanks to the Polish Pope on the occasion of the Great Jubilee of 2000 that the Basilica of St Bartholomew, under the care of the Sant'Egidio community since 1933, became a shrine to the new martyrs of the 20th and 21st centuries.
In prossimità del 2000, l'anno santo,
as the year 2000 approached, celebrated with great attention and solemnity by John Paul II, a special commission was established at the Basilica to collect and study the testimonies of contemporary martyrs.
Dei martiri contemporanei.
Soon, more than 13,000 dossiers arrived, documenting Christians of all denominations who gave their lives for their fidelity to the gospel in the 20th century. Their memory, Pope John Paul II said during the Great Prayer for the Martyrs at the Colosseum on May 7, 2000, must not be lost. Instead, it must be preserved in a documented way. Inside the church, 5 lateral chapels were established to house the relics and testimonies of our contemporary martyrs.
Over the past 22 years, we have received more than 100 relics and mementos from around the world. These came from episcopal conferences, male and female religious congregations, legal associations, Orthodox patriarchates, evangelical churches, and more. Pilgrims brought these often small but precious items, as they were mementos of contemporary Christian martyrs. As a result, the space in the church quickly filled up.
Presto lo spazio in chiesa si è abbastanza esaurito.
Now the testimonies of contemporary martyrs who died for their faith are preserved in a special memorial, inaugurated in 2023 in the crypt of the ancient basilica.
A partire dal 2005.
Starting in 2005, we began an extensive process of excavations, as this area previously served as a sort of garage. These archaeological efforts uncovered the original structures of the Ottonian Basilica. Gradually, based on various studies conducted by architects and archaeologists, we developed the design for this memorial.
The memorial, designed as a path of faith, aims to educate visitors about the stories of modern martyrs. It's divided into various thematic and geographic rooms.
In ogni sala C'è anche un video.
In each room, there is also a video with short explanations of each of the martyrs, and there is a short history of each martyr, written alongside the relics and the memorials.
This memorial is not intended to be a museum, but rather a pilgrimage following in the footsteps of martyrs, including very recent ones from places like Iraq and Syria, who were killed during the period of the Islamic State.
Bishop Rashid Ghani, a spiritual leader, endeavored to sustain the small Christian community in Iraq during very challenging times. Additionally, there is a Columbine, the only remaining object of the Armenian cathedral in Aleppo, which was bombed during the war in Syria.
Bombardata durante la guerra in Siria.
Alongside the suffering of Christians, there's the suffering of places where Christians have lived for centuries, sometimes for 2 millennia, like in Syria. These are places that they've had to leave due to persecution. There's also a special place within the Basilica where we can immerse ourselves in prayer, in union with the many Christians who have died for their faith.
Siamo riusciti a preservare anche.
We have also preserved a small prayer space at the original site of the shrine, where the relics of Bartholomew and Albert were conserved in the year 1000.
The Jubilee of 2025, known as the Jubilee of Hope, finds a fitting venue in this beautiful basilica.
I martiri trasmettono speranza.
Martyrs convey hope because they believe that reality is not solely dominated by force, violence, and money, but that spiritual values hold great importance.
Spirituali un grande posto.
We'll be back after a short break with a special look at Salvador Dali's renowned painting, Christ of St. John of the Cross. A special exhibition in Rome titled Dalì'S Christ in Rome brought together the famous Spanish painter Salvador Dalì and the Spanish saint and doctor of the Church, John of the Cross. This was the third exhibition of the Jubilee is Culture, the program of cultural initiatives in preparation for the 2025 Jubilee. Open to visitors at the Church of San Marcello al Corso in Rome from May the 13th to June the 23rd, the exhibition attracted more than 300,000 visitors. Salvador Dalì's famous Christ of St. John of the Cross was the exhibition's main piece.
The exhibition is receiving a lot of attention because it features one of the greatest works in art history, namely one of Salvador Dalì's most iconic works. Clearly, the work in itself attracts, but it is also attractive because it speaks of a spiritual need in a world where it is often set aside.
The painting was named Christ of St. John of the Cross because it was inspired by a small relic drawing by the 16th century Spanish Carmelite friar John of the Cross. The small ink sketch on parchment is itself believed to be a product of a mystical vision. The two works, which had never been previously exhibited side by side, were admired together for the first time. Completed in 1951 after his return to the faith, the painting and its unusual details were supposedly revealed to Dalì in what he claimed was a cosmic dream.
Dalì's Christ is a Christ who doesn't suffer. He is a beautiful Christ, a young and healthy Christ depicted without any signs of the Passion, The nails are missing, the crown of thorns is missing, and there is nothing written in the scroll above his head. The words, Inri, are missing.
The artist aimed to depict how, despite gravity pulling the body downward, a supernatural divine force holds it to the cross. This force is the sacrificial will and love of Jesus, who willingly offered himself for the salvation of humanity. The painting, which depicts Jesus on the cross floating in the darkness over a body of water, is also the first one ever to depict Christ crucified from God the Father's point of view.
Dalì's surrealism allows us to see God the Father's perspective on the crucifixion for the first time in an artwork. We are used to seeing this event from below as something we contemplate, and not used to thinking that God also has a perspective on the crucifixion and sacrifice of his Son. Thanks to this work, we can imagine the divine perspective on the crucifixion, on this weighty moment, which is the death of the Savior.
Besides its remarkable beauty, Dalì's painting also conveys the theme of Christian hope, making it particularly fitting in the context of the upcoming Jubilee.